Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorecom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, happy to have him back. This time it's just him solo, not the big quad box that we usually have. Vivek Rajgaria, he's president general manager, Poet Technologies, trades on the venture on the stock symbol PTK. And for our friends in the US, Poet F, and that's on the OTCQX, which is the highest small cap board there in the States. For those of you new to the story, we typically go through a pretty good overview, a layman's overview of what the company does, but that message has been getting out. People are catching on to it. So if you're watching this interview and you need more detail, read the preamble on Agoracom where this interview is located. Otherwise, for those of you who are watching by YouTube, or maybe actually it's in the description there as well, or listen by podcast, here's what you basically need to know. All of us are binging Netflix, watching YouTube, shopping Amazon, et cetera, and so on. So we need a lot of speed. We're also using artificial intelligence engines to recommend the next movie, the next song, the next gift item. So that requires a lot of computational power, right? In order to make all that happen, you need two things: big power, big speed. That's where photonics comes in. These are devices that create, detect, and manipulate light. And laser generated light is fundamental to the faster transfer of data possible between all these servers and these big data farms. Poet has developed a unique, disruptive, differentiating new entry into the photonics market. It's called the Poet Optical Interposer. Basically, what that does is the interposer is needed to make all these applications work as intended, fast. If you get that from your experience, right down to what Poet does, you understand Poet. Vivek, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Today's press release: Poet Technologies opens product design and development center in Shenzhen, China. Now, questions. You already have an existing design, development, engineering operations in Pennsylvania and Singapore. Yes. So what is it about your experience in China and Asia's photonic optoelectronics industry that had you go there for this?
So let me give you some background, perhaps even my experience in the region, in China and Asia with optical components. I started visiting and marketing optical components, so photonic products for fiber optics in China and in Asia in 1996, 25 years ago, with Lucent Technologies optoelectronics product line. So AT&T, which had turned into Lucent, the heritage from Bell Labs as a leader in the photonics at that time. So I started going to China and other parts of Asia, marketing and doing the business development. There was no business for us in China, at least at that time. And then in 1998, Lucent asked me to move to Hong Kong to set up our team to develop the business, grow the business, because we saw a huge market opportunity in the region. And then after that, also as we spun off Hitachi's fiber optic division to form OpNext, where I was vice president of product marketing and business development, also basically started the business for OpNext in China from scratch, from zero, which now OpNext turned into Aclaro and is now Lumentum. And then more recently, when I was with MACOM setting up the Lightwave BU, also started the business in China for optical products. So more importantly, in my background, I've stayed there. I've set up labs there in the past, at least twice. So all the way from seeding the market to growing the business, I've been involved with. So I see that as a key potential for us, and that's the reason to set up the business there. Now, George, you asked why Shenzhen and why China. So there are a couple of key points there. We have our technology platform development team in Singapore. That is the original team of Poet. And as we sold Denselight, we set up that team that works on the fundamental interposer technology, working with the fabs and all in the region. And then in Allentown, which is another hub for optical components and communications. We have the team there working on the photonics design, the photonic packaging. But all this needs to be taken and made into a final product, what we call the optical engine. So Shenzhen has been a hub for developing products using photonic technology, making into modules and other types of what you can call optical engines for fiber optics. So there are many companies in our field have bases there, have set up, and there's access to very good talent and skills that we are tapping into to set up the team. And also, as you know, Xiamen, which is where we are setting up a joint venture, Super Photonics Xiamen Company Limited, is also very well connected to Shenzhen. There's a high-speed train service, so access to our joint venture is also very important, as a location in Shenzhen.
Is that center now open in Shenzhen, operational? And if so, how do you expect to ramp up there? Because I'm assuming it doesn't hit the ground at 100%.
Yes, so the
Optimal.
center is now open. We are building it up. It is functional. We have to grow some of the capabilities, and also are building the team. So we have a small team already that has started there, and we are recruiting additional talent. And also, this team is starting to work with the joint venture team that is being put into place.
Um, Speaking of that, so Super Photonics, the joint venture company being set up with sorry for not pronouncing Sanya
Sanan, I see. Yeah.
Sanasi. Why is that important to all this?
So, we have the technology, right? We've demonstrated the platform that the technology is ripe for productization, which is what we are doing. So we do the design development, but ultimately we need to produce and reproduce and manufacture and scale. I've said this before, and I continue to repeat that is it's highly important for our end customers to see there is a reliable and scalable supply chain, for this great technology. But unless there's a supply chain that can bring that in a product form to the end customers, it doesn't mean much. So the super photonics is that platform to bring our product and design, manufacture it in high scale, and bring it to the end customers, to our customers. The You need a lot of capital investment to do that. And Sanan IC, which is a key partner and a joint venture partner here,
They've come
is,
up with
is
the cash.
investing and they're a leader in manufacturing compound semiconductors. So they also have the know-how of how to scale. And also having a fab there for Indian phosphide makes virtually a vertical integrated model where photonic devices can be sourced from the joint venture partner, Sanan IC.
All this isn't easy. I mean, the technology itself aside, we know that's not the easiest thing in the world. But all this from a logistics point of view isn't is pretty. It looks pretty complicated. Seems pretty sophisticated. So, is this where the appointment of Doctor and I want to make sure I pronounce her name right, Jinyu Mo,
So
as
yeah,
senior vice president? Is that where she comes in?
So yeah, Dr. Mo is a highly experienced industry veteran. She's been both on the technology side, product development side, setting up teams and businesses. Also was a founder of her company, where she was a CTO in optical. So she brings together breadth of both technical expertise as well as business acumen to and building teams to the region. And also she is well known in the industry, so also the influence in the industry is there.
So what does it mean? What kind of third party validation does it give Poet again? Because we keep talking about that because it seems like with every press release, you've got an
Yes.
important validation event going on. That someone like her who's got 22 years of experience spanning several companies. I won't go over all those because they're in the press release, but it's a pretty impressive, including Huawei, but other. What does it mean for someone like Dr. Mo to come to Poet that's still in its just entering its growth cycle?
So yeah, that's another endorsement of the potential. Of course, everything is not turned into products and dollars as yet, but the potential and the highly likelihood of making that happen has reached a certain inflection point in our progression, that now we can attract top-notch talent, have joint ventures with leading companies like Sana and IC, who have the opportunity to set up a joint venture with pretty much anyone they want, right? So this is it's a big endorsement, and I do have a firm belief that we are at an inflection point to take our technology platform into a product and turn it into a highly lucrative business for all our investors, many of them probably listening to this interview.
Last question. So with the design development center now set up in Shenzhen, how do you see how do you see that center developing throughout the year? Where do you see it by the end of the year in terms of what is going to be contributing to the overall operation of Poet?
So it will be the leader for us within Poet to take our technology platform and all the building blocks. There's many things. There's a wafer, there's the features on the wafer, there's the attachment of the integration of photonics, the processes of doing that, alignment of fibers. So we have all those building blocks, but ultimately it has to be turned into a product that can be used by our customers. So Shenzhen is already, the team has experience. We'll attract others with the right experience, and we are going to be rolling out products. So the product roadmap that we've shared with our investors at the AGM, and also following interviews with you, we've talked about that. The likelihood of really rolling those out on schedule, on time, and making it high performance products is really where our team in Shenzhen is going to contribute.
And I've got to assume that that really helps on the biz development side
Yes.
when you're going into meetings and making presentations to potential customers to show them that it all ends in Shenzhen, and you're fully geared up and ready
Yeah.
to produce.
Absolutely, George, and you hit the nail on the head here, because we are an engine supplier. We are not a module supplier or a system supplier, but most of the more high-speed optical modules today are made in the China region. So close proximity with customers, working together with customers on technical level and design in, the team will contribute. And being there is very important. Having the same culture, language, everything, understanding is going to be key, as well as the joint venture. Again, taking our designs to the joint venture, making sure that joint venture is able to successfully produce and ramp those products is also a big help that the Shenzhen team will provide.
Vivek, let me ask something. Here we are. It's pretty much just past the halfway point of January. Okay, January 19th.
Yes.
But it feels like Poet has done, at least a quarter's worth of work, if not a half a year's worth of advance and progress, right?
Yeah.
Is that just how it appears to us on the outside, or does it appear the same way to you on the you guys on the inside, that Poet's really starting to accelerate its a growth its growth phase here? Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's inflection point. It's coming. It's the fruition of several years of hard work that Suresh and the team have been putting together. It doesn't show up, in terms of dollars as yet, but there's a lot of foundation that had to be developed. We did that. Now we are starting to see the fruits of those hard work, if I may, and innovation that we've been doing. So it's an exciting time because ultimately you want to see the final products and the final success that comes from those efforts. So we are starting to see that. It's all rolling out now, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see the smile on your face, which is great, right? That's what these interviews pick up that you can't see on a press release. So safe to assume, Vivek, that so far so good, and in fact, Poet is exceeding expectations and progress. Everything is pretty much going perfectly as of now. Knock on wood.
Yes, of course, challenges never end. I've said this before in your interview. the heavy lifting never ends, but it's at a good point in our good phase in our business growth here. So yeah.
Vivek, thanks for coming back on. This was a smaller press release, didn't have the technology detail that we normally have, but quite important in the overall operation of the company and the overall setup to make sure you guys are ready
Yeah.
to address the market that you're going after. So thanks for that, and congratulations again on Dr. Mo's acquisition, Dr. Mo's appointment. Sorry, to the company
Yeah.
acquisition.
Talent acquisition is a big part of
Yeah, well,
the
that's
game here.
that's the thing,
So
and
yeah.
she's both on the technical side and the business side.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's a double threat. She's a double threat at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, because that's a great things like that are what make me, and I'm sure, I know I can't speak for investor at home, but I look at and say, okay, she's got a very successful career. She's been at so many great places. She pretty much has her pick of options. I'm going to assume she didn't
Yeah.
come hat in hand. I'm sure she had uh, good 4 or 5 options on the table. And when I see that someone of her pedigree, her quality joins Poet, that says a lot to me as far as inferring where the company's going, because she's essentially putting her career on Poet. So
Yeah, and key talent, key players attract other key talents.
yeah,
So that's
that's
another thing.
exactly it.
So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Vivek. Really enjoyed having you. And sounds, I guess we're going to be doing this on a pretty regular basis. So I look forward to when you and or the rest of the group come back on for more and more. But it looks like it's shaping up to be an exciting year for
Yeah.
Poet.
Thank you, George. Thank you for making it enabling us to communicate to our investors. We can't see all of them, especially today's pandemic. So I also thank all our investors who are on the call, who are sticking by us, and new investors that are coming in. So thank you.
Yeah. Well said, Vivek. For all of you at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast via Spotify, Apple, Google, your favorite podcast platform, to Vivek Rajgara. He's president and general manager of Poet Technologies, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under PTK and on the OTCQX under Poet F. For those of you who are new to the story, and we know this, and we've solved the problem and we're solving it. Poet has always been a company with fantastic technology and great promise. The problem has been for the longest time, it is difficult to understand what Poet does. And that's the double-edged sword of disruptive great tech companies. They have explosive growth because they're making new ground, but that also makes them difficult to understand because very few people have been into that new ground. So take a look starting today or next couple of days. We're going to have a really great profile up on Poet that really explains what the company does in layman's terms. Because if you can understand, again, remember just the basics of, you want speed, you want power, that puts a lot of stress on computers and server farms, and they need Poet in order to exchange information at lightning speed, because that's what Poet really does in the day. And they're doing it different, and it looks like doing better than almost everybody else. If you can understand that, that's the beginning of your due diligence. Make sure you stay with us. And if you're brand new, watch the last couple of interviews that we've done with with a big part of the management team. Those are incredibly helpful and will really be helpful in your due diligence. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day. See you next time.